Well, you sure don't look much like a railroad anymore. And not much of you left. I guess we've all seen better days. Well, that's life. You grow up, you work hard, you tumble back into the earth. But by gosh, we had our day, didn't we? 6 boats. 6 canal boats. We pull up that steep incline every hour. Big boats. Put them on a flat bed, haul them up over the Allegheny Mountains, drop them in the water on the other side. Send them on their way to Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, or whichever way they were going in the first place. You take a canal boat, you put it on the train, you take it over the mountains. It's unbelievable. You talk about overcoming what nature put in your way, well, look out. You can't block progress, especially when you got a whole country of people chomping at the bit wanting to go west to send a boatload of supplies in that direction. Well, now's now. We may be falling apart. By gosh, for some 20 years, we had a time of it, didn't we? Should have wrote a book about it. The Allegheny Portage Railroad by Edgar West. Oh, how would I start it? As a young man, way back in the 20s, my occupation was to lead our mules along the canal towpath. I lived with my family, mules included, aboard the canal boat. And we hauled cargo back and forth on a canal built alongside of a river that was just too cantankerous to run a boat on, what with the rapids and the waterfall. And working the canals, that wasn't as easy as it looked, no sir. Well, most of the time between the locks, it was uneventful, except when one of the mules fell in the water, and then you had your hands full. And when you came to one of the locks, you had to think fast and act even quicker. You unhitch the mules from the boat, tie them up, run help guide the boat into the lock, and then tie her off quick so she wouldn't go busting through the gates at the other end of the lock. Now, of course, the lock keeper was there to help, maybe a bystander or two. We'd open the water gates on the other side. Down and go the water level and the boat. Real fast it was. Sometimes there'd be near a half-dozen locks in a mile. Hard work. But it sure was the only way to take a boat downhill, or uphill for that matter. Oh, there was some fun to be had. Maybe the lockkeeper had a daughter to spark, or maybe you could listen to the local gossip.
Did you hear what Pennsylvania's gonna do?
What now?
Gonna dig a canal all the way across the state.
Don't Pennsylvania have enough canals?
Not east to west, they don't. Like New York.
It's gonna go from Columbia near Harrisburg straight through to Pittsburgh.
Oh? What's it gonna do when it gets to the Allegheny Mountains?
From what I heard, they're gonna figure that one out when they get dug that far.
That's flat out crazy. Why do we need another canal anyway?
Well, New York State's already got the Erie Canal running all the way west. And Maryland's fixing to dig a canal from Washington out west. Pretty soon.
Well, pretty soon won't be anybody traveling across our state, that's what.
They'll be traveling west using the north of or south of Pennsylvania route, and we'll be left out.
Could all this be true? A bunch of folks otherwise thought to be in their right minds deciding to dig a canal across the whole state, then up one side of a mountain, down the other? Oh, well, that might be interesting to watch. So I decided to go out on my own, maybe make something of myself. After all, I'm almost 17. And that spring of 1831, I left my parents. I walked on over to take a look at that mountain. I found myself working. I had a job. That's the dumbest thing I ever did. See, trying to cross those mountains in good weather was a trial, but in bad weather, anybody who could figure a better way to get people and wagons over these mountains deserved a prize. There were rocks and ruts and rain and mud everywhere to slow you down. And when the weather cleared, the black gnats and rattlesnakes came out. And with this kind of trouble, only high-priced cargo like furs and whiskey could ever expect to make a profit. No wonder smart folks were using the Erie Canal. Finally, I came upon Pittsburgh. Gateway to the West, people called it. Downtown, folks were being recruited for the new canal project. And the whole thing is headed up by a fella named Sylvester Welch. An engineer, he was.
Gentlemen, it is all quite simple. Now follow along on this map. The canal runs from Pittsburgh to Johnstown. At Johnstown, there begins a 36-mile railroad section that takes travelers and goods over the mountains. A series of 10 inclined planes allow the passenger cars and boats to be hauled up and let back down by steam power. Then, when they reach Hollidaysburg on the eastern side, they're set back into the new canal and sped on their way toward Philadelphia. A journey of 5 days, compared with 23 days by wagon. An amazing time for a voyage of some 394 total miles.
Poor old Reuben Ranzo, Ranzo me boys, Ranzo. Poor old Reuben Ranzo, Ranzo me boys, Ranzo.
Well, I pretty much knew all I cared to know about canals, so I hired on, working on what they're calling America's first railroad tunnel, Staple Bend Tunnel. And that was the first big hurdle in the railroad scheme of things. We had to dig 900 feet straight through a mountain of rock. I mean, to make a hole big enough to drive a locomotive through. Well, it's hard work. And you shared your bed and board with an assortment of characters and critters. There were drunkards and rattlesnakes and black gnats everywhere. But making 47.5 cents a day kind of eased the pain. And it wasn't long before I was putting down stone sleepers, the foundation on top of which they set the ties and edge rails themselves. It's pretty heavy work, but I could take it. As the able-bodied man could get work all along the mainline canal route. That's what they called it, main line. Well, somehow all the railroad tracks were spiked into the ground. Through the Staple Bend Tunnel, over the Conemaugh Viaduct, up one mountain, across the top, down the next valley, then back again. It was almost a year before we were going to open up. And people already, they're anticipating how this main line's going to be a big benefit for everybody.